struggling with homeschooling math? And have you been hearing about a program called Teaching Textbooks, but perhaps you've read some conflicting things about it or are simply not sure if it's for you? If so, then this video is for you. Hello friends, it's been a very busy, bustling spring here at our mountain homeschool homestead. Just like the bees, we've been buzzing around, putting our gardens in, taking care of our spring broilers, and of course, wrapping up our homeschool year. And half of my kids are even getting a little head start on the upcoming year, which is a huge first. We have never gotten a head start before, but wait for it. You guys, this year we're getting a head start in math of all of the subjects. After you have watched this video, you'll see why that is such a big deal and miracle for our family. Today's video is going to be a little different than the normal. It's going to be for the homeschoolers out there. Specifically, it's going to be for anyone who struggles with teaching math, doesn't have time for it, or just plain hates it. This video is going to be for people with advanced math-minded children and people that have struggling or neurodivergent children. Going to be for people that have a bigger family and need help teaching all of their children, and for people like me with all of the above. Lately, I've been getting more and more questions about how I balance the homestead, homemaking, and homeschooling. Some moms are like, Shayla, how do you do it all? I don't. I have help in some areas, and teaching math is one of those areas. Several years ago, I found something so remarkable for math. It changed the course of our math journey in our homeschool for the better. This find is one of Kathy Duffy's top 100 picks, which is kind of a big deal. The proof is in the pudding, as they say, though. Friends, we do yearly testing as required by our state. My kids' test scores always score perfectly with this curriculum. It truly works. Another benefit, though, for those of you with kids headed to college, the high school portion of this program has SAT and ACT prep built in. There is so much more, though, and we're going to go over that in a few minutes. First, though, I want to say that this math curriculum is what has made it possible for me to homeschool math with babies and toddlers around, and with dyscalculia. I have dyscalculia. It's made it possible for me to homeschool while working part-time jobs. Running the home and the homestead, it has completely removed the challenges and anxieties that used to revolve around math for my children as well as myself. We're going to be talking about teaching textbooks today. If you are considering it, there are some things you are going to want to know, so stick around. First, I'd love for this video to be a helpful resource for other homeschool mamas, so please leave your teaching textbook story below if your homeschool has been helped by this program. If you're new here, I'm Shayla, a mom of 6 with kids, adult down to kindergarten age. My husband and I are second-generation homeschoolers. I have been a mentor helping new homeschool parents get started and navigate curriculum since 2017. I have used teaching textbooks for around 8 or 9 years now. 5 of my children are currently using teaching textbooks, so we have pretty extensive experience with the program. In addition to this, I have read long forums as I've done research regarding teaching textbooks because, like most parents who care about their children's education, I've questioned whether or not what I'm using is good enough. There are some things that I have learned about the program that you kind of need to know if you're thinking about using the program, though. This video is sponsored by Teaching Textbooks, and before you click away, I'd like to tell you, you don't want to miss what I'm sharing today. You'll be sorry if you do. Let's jump in. There are literally thousands of people that swear by teaching textbooks, but every now and then you get someone who says it's not good, it's the worst. So we're going to talk about some reasons someone might say that today. Also, I'm going to share why our family absolutely loves the program and a couple of things to watch out for. First, allow me to share a couple chapters from our homeschool math story because I think it might help empower you. If you don't want to hear this story, though, you can't skip ahead, though. Check out the chapters below. Here's our homeschool math story, or the beginnings of it anyways. I'm a second-generation homeschooler, as is my husband. Neither of us are strong in math. I was raised on a curriculum that I won't mention here because I don't like speaking ill of other curriculum companies because, hey, what doesn't work for one might be a saving grace for another family. I will say that I'm so old that when my mother started homeschooling me, it had just barely become legal to homeschool in many states, and homeschool curriculum companies were very far and few between. One of the first major homeschool companies wasn't even selling to homeschoolers the year my mom started homeschooling me. I gurgled through math, and when I met my husband and we started our family and people heard we were planning to homeschool, some even made fun of us because neither of us were very good at math. So in 2009, I started on my homeschool mom journey, and we didn't use the curriculum my parents used on me because of how badly my math journey went. But we went with something similar that I didn't realize was similar, and it went over like a Led Zeppelin for my kid. Everything from the layout to the instructions were confusing to both of us. So we switched to another curriculum. It was better, but still not great. The new curriculum was too colorful for an ADHD kid. It moved way too quickly. It was spiral, which is what teaching textbooks is, and which is okay and worked well, but it was too fast. It was moving so quickly that it simply didn't work for that reason. On top of this, there was too much jumping around for me with the teacher's manual, which was very thick. You see, I had a 2-year-old and a newborn, and I needed something open and go. I didn't have the time, the opportunity, or the attention span to read the teacher training material starting months before beginning the program. Eventually, I had 2 kids I was teaching, and we tried something on CD-ROM, which was another bad fit. My kids kept getting straight Fs on that. And at that point, I had a toddler in addition to the 2 children I was homeschooling and another newborn, and I was getting desperate. So here I am, I'm in tears, I'm crying, I'm praying for solutions. My confidence was waning. I had just learned my oldest child had inattentive ADHD, possible auditory processing issues, and that we both had dyscalculia, by the way, and we had all grown to hate math. For those unfamiliar with dyscalculia, it's basically like dyslexia, only with numbers. So enter teaching textbooks. I was so nervous to try something on the computer again because of our previous experiences, but I was desperate. I don't remember the year it was. I'd have to dig into my records to see, but I remember my oldest child was falling more and more and more behind, and I was getting more concerned. So after finding teaching textbooks and consulting with the staff, we started that child in teaching textbooks math 3. Again, I don't remember the year. That child is about to graduate now though, and has worked through most of the levels. He's in the geometry course now, if that's helpful for you to know. I just want to take a second to break though and encourage those of you out there that are homeschooling neurodivergent children. We use teaching textbooks on both math advanced kids and ones that struggle because of how amazing the program is designed. It's great for both. After beginning the teaching textbooks courses, my neurodivergent child still struggled for a while because of the learning issues, but it wasn't like before. It took some time. But here's the best part. Something really amazing happened that I didn't realize was possible. Eventually and very slowly, that child started enjoying math. You guys, that's huge. I mean, isn't that one of the biggest reasons we homeschool, to help our kids enjoy learning? So a little side note here, how often do we say the phrase, my kid's not a math kid, but they're great at language arts? Or my kid's brain isn't wired for language arts, they're more mathy. Friends, I just want to say this, that in my research, which I've done a lot of, I've learned there really isn't such a thing. If you find a curriculum that your kid resonates with, they can be good at both. Let's get back on track here though. Because of my particular child's individual neurodivergence, they had been behind in math badly, but eventually they caught up thanks to teaching textbooks. They've been getting straight A's and B's ever since. In addition to getting that child on teaching textbooks, the next biggest thing that I remember doing was I stopped pushing and stressing over it. I allowed them to work at their own pace, which was not easy always. And I did that for the most part. Basically, if they were working on it, I didn't push them to go faster unless I saw they were lollygagging. We have been using the program on all of our children ever since, starting in 3rd grade. And some move through it more quickly and some move through it a little more slowly. Sometimes they move through some of the levels more quickly than others. Let's talk about the question, is teaching textbooks behind? Every time I come across a lengthy thread discussing teaching textbooks, someone pops on the thread arguing that
teaching textbooks is behind.
Is teaching textbooks behind? Let's explore this. I will share my experience and some of the research that I've done. Since we started teaching textbooks, I've used it on neurodivergent kids as well as neurotypical kids. We do yearly testing through Christian Liberty. We purchase the California Achievement tests. All of our children above grade 3 are in teaching textbooks, and their test results are always estimating their grade as slightly above the level of the teaching textbooks level they're in. Currently, they're in the same level that corresponds with their grade, and their CIT tests put them slightly above. So I'm going to say that one more time, and another way to make sure it's understood. When they are in Math 5, for example, their CIT test results put them at grade 5 or slightly above as an estimated grade level. So for those claiming it's behind, there's that. Secondly, I mentioned an area with teaching textbooks that many people misunderstand. Math 3 isn't necessarily grade 3. It's level 3. Level 4 is not grade 4, and so on. This is the biggest reason a lot of people try to claim that teaching textbooks is behind. They think the levels are grades. They are not. Something you do need to know, teaching textbooks does not follow Common Core math. It also has its own scope and sequences, and that is a little different than other math curriculums. If you stick through all the levels, your child will have a complete math education in the end. If you jump it, then it might appear your child has a gap and you might have some areas you need to fill in. But here's the thing, that's how it is with any math curriculum that isn't Common Core aligned. That is why jumping any math curriculum can present gaps and challenges. I see it all the time where people jump math curriculums and end up panicking because they find gaps, and they end up thinking that the previous math curriculum that they were on is the worst out there. It's the worst on the market, and this is part of why. It's not just with teaching textbooks. So the truth is about teaching textbooks that it is a very solid math program. Again, it would not be one of Kathy Duffy's top 100 picks if there wasn't something really amazing about it. I've read threads a mile long in homeschool groups where parents were sharing their stories. Many who graduated their kids on it, and their kids got perfect GED or SAT scores in math. The one I remember that stood out the most, though, was this one mom shared how her son went on to become a scientist, and of course he had to go through entrance exams. This was a few years ago, and his scores in math portions of his tests were the highest possible scores you could get. She said they used teaching textbooks all the way through. She actually went and asked her son his opinion on the program after having completed all of these college science courses. Her son said that he felt that the math education he received from teaching textbooks was adequate to prepare him. I've also spoken with numerous math teachers who love teaching textbooks. There are some important things to know about the program, though. Here's what you need to know about teaching textbooks before beginning the program, or if you have started using it. It is independent, which I'll talk more about in a minute, but it's independent within reason. This is a mistake some people make, thinking they can completely have their child alone in the program and that they never have to check in with the child. You do need to check in with your kids and make sure they are actually doing the program and using it correctly. One example was one of my kids was boggled one day, thinking that the program didn't hold his last lesson. He kept going on about how he completed the last lesson, but it wasn't saying it was saved or completed. He worried that it didn't save his work from the day before. I took one look and saw he simply forgot to do a couple of the problems, so it was marking the lesson as incomplete. You might want to make sure your kid is completing all the problems if you want them to complete them all. I suggest checking in once or twice a week. Log into the parent dashboard and see if your child is doing well. Make sure they're completing all of the problems and actually doing the work. If you have the app, don't rely on the email that comes in every day and tells you where your child is at. It's great. You still need to log into the program, though, and the parent dashboard and make sure they're actually completing all of the problems, unless, of course, you've chosen for them not to complete all the problems. There are times I've told my children to skip certain problems because it was something that they had fully mastered and they didn't need to spend more time practicing it. Also, you want to make sure their scores are adequate. In our home, if I start seeing too many, like 86%, I know that there must be a concept that my child isn't getting. So if I see more than 3 or 4, we take a deeper look to see what's happening and what they're not getting. Here's the best part, though. If I can help them, I do. But as the levels get higher and I can't help them, hello algebra, guess what? This is the exciting part that a lot of people I talk to about the program don't know about. Teaching textbooks comes with math tutors that you can call. I'm serious. Isn't that exciting? If your child is stumped, again, hello algebra, all you need to do is call teaching textbooks. They will put in a help ticket, and within a short amount of time, a math teacher calls to help your child through the problem. All the math tutors we've had have been exceptional, extremely patient and kind. We've only had to call in 3 or 4 times in all the years that we've been using teaching textbooks, so that's a testimony, I think, to how thorough the program is. Let's talk about some little-known fun facts about teaching textbooks. These are some things I learned from years of using the program and things that I have learned recently as well while talking with the staff at teaching textbooks. Since teaching textbooks is not Common Core aligned, if you're starting with it, you definitely want to start out with that placement test. Don't jump in without that, because remember, the levels don't necessarily align with grades. If your child is college bound, you'll be happy to know that Teaching Textbooks does have the SAT and SAT prep built into the high school program. Something exciting I learned about Teaching Textbooks. It began in a private school for accelerated students, so it works both for neurodivergent kids and accelerated kids. It's possible, especially for math advanced kids, to complete levels in less than a year. If you want your child to graduate math early, you can do this with this program. Up until recently, we used the CDs, and when I agreed to this sponsorship, we switched to the app. I honestly didn't think the program could be improved from the CDs because I thought it was really great before, but the app is even better. I love Teaching Textbooks because it is independent. I can make breakfast or lunch for my kids or help a younger child while my older kids are doing their math. Teaching math takes a lot of time per student. If I were to teach math to all of my children with other programs, I would literally be spending over half the day teaching just that one subject alone, and I wouldn't have time for teaching the other subjects that I'm actually good at teaching. I really love having something to take the load and pressure off from teaching a subject that I'm not very good at and that I would be able to do a very good job teaching, especially since I have dyscalculia and reverse numbers all the time. I love that Teaching Textbooks does such a good job. As mentioned, we are required to do yearly testing and my children's scores are always perfect. Teaching Textbooks is designed to help the kids succeed and provide support they need to succeed along the way. It doesn't matter if your child is an auditory or a visual learner, because the program covers both. Remember in the beginning of the video where I talked about how my kids are getting a head start on math this year? This is in part due to the fact that it's easy to complete levels in less than a year. It's also because the program is spiral, so if I have a child that has fully mastered a concept, I will allow them to move on because I know that it will be reviewed again later. Something I love about the app is that you can pause the program for up to 3 months. That is great if you need the program for a longer amount of time or for breaks. It's really nice to have that pause button if you have a child that has learning disabilities and needs more time, or if you have a family emergency, or for whatever reason. The lessons start with 5 practice problems and are examples of the 5 hardest types of problems in the lesson. And if you look in the upper right-hand corner of the practice problem, you will find a reference number showing when that concept was first introduced. This is helpful if your child forgot a concept and they need to go back. By the way, I want to insert here that if your child forgets a concept they were taught, this is normal. I see parents get really freaked out when this happens. I used to get freaked out when it happened. And they worry that there's something wrong with the child or the curriculum. Usually there's nothing wrong with either. It's perfectly normal, and it's why we review. Speaking of which, Teaching Textbooks uses a spiral method, so if they don't completely grasp something now, it will be brought back around to them later. Maybe their brain will be more ready for it down the road. One neat thing that Teaching Textbooks does, it provides practice problems, but sometimes they give a new twist on the problems and concepts that they've had for a while, so the child can see it in different examples. Some problems in a lesson have a letter in front of them. These refer to the practice problem at the beginning of the lesson for the student to refer back to. This is nice because the student can review an example problem to help them solve the harder ones they are working on. The lessons with Teaching Textbooks are interactive, and this is huge and helps so much. Math is so abstract, and having interactive lessons and examples makes a missing key difference for some kids that would be able to grasp some concepts otherwise. Another great thing about the program is the kids can re-watch and re-listen to the lectures as needed. All they need to do if they are struggling in an area is click on the lecture and problems button and re-watch the lecture. Some of my kids use that feature constantly, some not at all. One time in an online thread, someone asked about online math programs that grade for you, and so many other moms recommended Teaching Textbooks. And someone that hadn't even used the program tried arguing with us that Teaching Textbooks doesn't prepare kids for real life math examples. I can verify that that's not true. All of the Teaching Textbook levels do include real-world problems. Since I have a lot of children and my oldest has used almost all of the levels, I can tell you that there are always going to be some concepts some kids grasp more quickly than others. But this has to do with the child and where they are developmentally. Something my kids love and find helpful are the hints. They are strategically placed throughout the assignments, and these hints make it so my kids seldom need my help. You can turn hints off though, if you prefer. The hints do have sound effects that can be turned off if they're distracting. My kids absolutely loathe getting problems wrong, and I mean loathe it. One of my kids groans every time. Teaching textbooks does have a second chance feature though, which can be turned off if you wish. If your child needs extra practice on pre-algebra and algebra, you can go into the parent portal and find printable extra problems. The answers are provided in the ebook and answer key. Let's talk about the gradebook. I love the gradebook. The kids can peek at it if they want. Some kids will be motivated to do better after looking at it and seeing how far they've come. They cannot change their grades or delete lessons, so you don't have to worry about that. The program has some fun features like reward stickers that unlock as problems are completed, animated buddies for your younger learners, and wallpapers, which I think might be my kids' favorite feature. There's a printable ebook. You can print out the lecture, quizzes, tests, problems, or examples of student work if you need to provide those for an evaluator. There's an interactive scratch pad as well that your kids can use. Mine prefer to use a pencil and scratch paper. I don't think they've ever used the scratch pad feature, but it is there for kids that do prefer it. When your child does math, you will get an email the next morning telling you where your child is at, which is super helpful. With the CDs, I had to call all 5 of my kids in every couple days to check in, or as I was planning out the week, and find out where they were so I could make sure they were on track. Things would get pretty crazy for about 10 minutes with all these kids, because see, every kid had to pop in their CD and find what lesson they were on if they didn't remember, and then they would all come and try and tell me at the same time. So 4 kids hollering out different lessons. I finally had to teach them to wait in line and wait till their turn so I didn't write the wrong lesson down for the wrong kid. With the Teaching Textbooks app, I don't have to do that. I can do the planning and assigning easily while they're still in bed in the morning. I love that with the app, it's all online. I don't have to worry about the computer failing and losing everything, or a CD getting scratched or lost, which previously was my only complaint with teaching textbooks. Something we love about it, as a big family with high school kids in the mix, is that you can download it all on your devices, and it's available on any device, anytime, anywhere, including offline for up to 6 lessons. It's super simple to get started with this program. You just have to create the parent and child accounts. There's a super helpful walkthrough they give explaining everything. It takes literally 30 to 40 minutes to get started, or less, depending on how many little ones you have running around to interrupt you. This is in contrast to other math programs that you have to do a lot of teacher reading and training for, that you've got to go through. Some of the ones that I've used, you literally have to start reading the teacher manual at least a month prior before you even start teaching your child from it. In addition to that, some have teacher reading you must do throughout the curriculum too. I love that Teaching Textbooks does not have any of that. If you're looking for a solid, reputable math program to teach your children math, I highly recommend this program. Like I said, we've been using it for years, and it has been a true math and sanity saver in our homeschool. Friends, I hope this video has been helpful. If anyone has questions, I will keep the comments open, and be sure to check the links in the description box below, please, if you would like to learn more about the amazing program. If you use Teaching Textbooks, tell me what your favorite aspects to the program are in the comments below.